Okay, we are live. Ah, your background looks beautiful. I love it.
Yes, I was able to change it a little bit.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on. If you could just go on mute, I'm going to start the podcast now and talk a little bit about why we're here today, Warrior Women in Business, and my guest, which I'm super excited about. So, for those of you that don't know me or Warrior Women in Business, my name is Jasmine Sandler. I'm the founder and CEO of JS Media. We are a branding and marketing agency since 2006 that's been helping brands, primarily female-led companies. And around 2017, I was speaking in front of, I don't know, an audience of about 500 hungry female entrepreneurs. And this light bulb went off, and I said, you know what, I need to do something. So I started this podcast, event series, conference, and other things that we do to support female entrepreneurs. The crux of the podcast is really bringing in female leaders like our guest today across industry, because it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. I've found in my many years in business, it really depends on the person and their journey and what they have to share. So we are at episode 45 today. Warrior Women in Business, for those of you that don't know, the website is warriorwomenbusiness.com. It will be on the show notes. This podcast episode will be edited later and include show notes and things that Stefy would like to share with you as we move forward. Couple of things I just want to mention. I wanted to mention our podcast sponsor, MXL Microphones, a division of Marshall Electronics. So for those of you that know us, we are very, very supportive of women in the arts. So we appreciate that. And we have a lot of good things coming up. So please stay tuned to the end of the podcast. With that being said, I'd like to give a little bit of a bio on Stefy. She's going to talk a lot more about many questions for her. But I saw her company on LinkedIn and I was like, oh my God, who is this woman? She's a 3-time motocross champion, and I'm a sports person. So to do that in a very, very male-dominated space is no easy feat. To do it from Europe to the United States and around the world, she's going to talk about that. And she also is obviously an entrepreneur. That's why she's on today. She is the founder and CEO of Init Esports, which is a SIM card racing organization. I don't want to talk too much more about it because I'm going to ask Stefy to talk all about it. And what I love in our initial prep conversation was she talked about how her organization is now in schools helping girls develop into male-dominated industries like motocross. And I was saying to Stefy, when I was a girl growing up, they said, don't take shock, that's for men. So I was like really, really happy to hear that. So thank you for coming on. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. I can't wait for this conversation today.
Yeah, and I know you've been like literally traveling around like crazy. So with your business, so thank you for taking the time out. So the first question I want to ask is kind of obvious, is to a lot of the my audience would be, how did a woman get into motocross and what was that journey about?
Well, in my case, I guess it is because my mom and dad, they had an idea that it was good for me as a little girl to try this sport. Well, kidding aside, like my mom and dad, they were fan of the sport, and they were always going to watch the races when the World Championship was coming to Italy. So they brought me along, when I was born, and I turned 6 years old, and I look at them in the eyes and say, "Hey, I wanted to do this because I think I can become a champion." And I guess they were crazy enough to buy me that motorcycle, a very real motorcycle with the engine and the gas and whatnot, all the equipment. They put me on, and then I just kind of like knew how to do it. So that's how I started.
So were either your parents into motocross before that? Did you watch it on TV or
They
anything like
watched
that?
it on
Yeah.
TV, and they were only able to go and watch one time a year the race that was coming to Italy, the World
Mm.
Championship. But they just like it, a sport that they liked since they were young, I guess. And you know, my dad also owned a motorcycle to be able to
Ah.
go in the dirt, in trail riding. So that kind of like was part of it. My mom didn't never rode at all, but it was just my dad. And I guess, seeing him so happy, every Sunday coming back from his trips, with his friends, I just kind of like got
Yeah.
excited and I wanted to do the same.
Yeah, I used to own an action sports marketing company, and the reason why is I love motocross. So that's one of the reasons I reached out. It's just, it's I don't know, it's so inspiring, exciting. It's challenging. It's an amazing sport for those of you that don't know too much about it. So let's talk about what you've done to break barriers for women, and that's why I asked you to be on the podcast, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, like, in this sport. I mean, especially in that sport, I'm sure you came across obstacles from in conversations where there, I'm assuming there were times when people didn't want to let you in, so to speak. And kind of, can you share some maybe stories with us
Yeah.
about how you broke through those barriers, or those perceptions rather?
Yeah, well, I guess, like having two fantastic parents, they always made me feel like I belong no matter what, if I work hard. I kind of grow up with that mentality. So I was brought out, to be a confident little girl, from the very beginning. So when you are a very young kid and you do sport, at that time, there is no difference. You're just a kid, you play and in our case, we were riding motorcycle all together and friends. Then, of course, teenage year comes in and then it becomes a little bit difficult because, as human being, we start to evolve a little bit more. So there is different things happening, and that when it started to become a little bit more difficult because, also the community around is like, oh, you're a girl, you're doing a men's sport,
Right.
all of this. But again, like my mom and dad was always there and be supporting and say, hey, if you love to do this, we support you no matter what. So
Yeah.
I was successful, and I was winning races. And, when you were a kid in the amateur side, it was always like hard, because a lot of people say, why, even to my parents, like you putting your little girl at risk and,
Mhm.
you shouldn't do this and whatnot. But I just pursued it. I loved it. And I was able to turn professional at 17 years old. And from that on, it actually became easier for me because I was part of this world, and everybody knew that if I was going to show up, I was going to give my best. And when you enter the professional league, everything kind of like equals out a little bit, meaning like that if you're there, you belong to be there. So it doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy. However, continue to grow in my racing career and then becoming more and more successful, then other issue comes in because unfortunately, like not just in motocross, but in a lot of industry, they are male dominated. It tends to be more like that they don't pay you as a woman as they pay the guys.
Yes, that's a
So
lot that
that
we cover, and I'm glad we're talking about it. Go ahead.
Yes, so that became something that I ended up butt heading, with the
Yeah.
with the industry, and then I still stay strong, and I'm like, hey, I'm behind the gate like every other guy here, so
Yeah.
I don't deserve to be paid less, it has to
Yeah,
be
it's
the same.
ridiculous.
So, with that kind of mentality and the support again of the team and the family, I was able to break these barriers and actually happy to see, the after me, a lot of girls in the sport was actually treated more fairly,
Oh,
so yes, it changed
so
a
you're
lot.
you're a
Yeah.
trailblazer, like my last guest. I don't know if you caught that, but I interviewed Jane Blaylock. She was one of the founders of the LPGA, and it's exactly what she had to do.
Hmm.
So a big question for you that I have based on that is, any champion, right? Any champion who's a champion more than once,
Yeah.
like you, right? It's not easy. So what's your mental thought process? How do you repeatedly win? That's the big question I have for
I
you.
guess you repeatedly win because you don't like to lose.
That's
No,
a great answer.
yes. So like in my case, I mean, I grew up with a family that supported me, but they were not really financially, affluent. So
Right.
everything was a very big sacrifice to be able to get me to race. So with that in mind, you say, I cannot lose, I need to continue winning. So that was kind of like the motivation to continue to progress with my career. So for me, it was more almost a mental state, and then it gets into a way that you know what you need to do to be prepared, right? So
Yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
you know that if you have not worked hard enough and hit your mark, you're not going to win. So therefore, you work it backwards. It's like, I have to do this because I want to win. So you continue to do it, and then eventually, the results comes. Like when you work very hard in everything you do in life, you have to have a little bit of luck, of course, like, and especially in our sport, to not get too injured. But then, result eventually will come.
Yeah. No, I like what you said there about like, that you have the goal first and then you work towards a goal. And also this morning I always listen to podcasts, other people's podcasts when I wake up in the morning, and I heard something that really made sense. It was like, when you come from like you mentioned, if you don't come from an affluent background, you have that hunger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's in my opinion and all my experience, it's a big key to success is maintaining the hunger, right?
Yes.
But it sounds like you've done to do it 3 times.
Yes.
You're not satisfied.
You want to just continue to do it. But also for me, as I was continuing to be successful, I started to also turn in a way that I wanted to become inspirational too, because if I can do it, other girls can do it. So at one point, toward the end of my career, I was inviting, more girls to come and compete, race against me. And the rest of the group, they were already race against me. They were like, why you're doing this? They might be able to beat you. And like, it doesn't matter, like it's good because it will elevate everyone, like, because to be better, you always have to have a stiffer competition. Otherwise, you just stop there, right? So for me, I was inviting.
I know. I'm involved in a lot of things, and I know. And the more challenging the field in any field, I think the better you get better, right?
100%. Yeah, it's important.
And something else you brought up that I think is important, I don't know if you realize you brought it up, but you did, is, thinking bigger than yourself and thinking more like how you can give back, and not in a label way, but in a real way. And I think all the guests that have been on my podcast and the successful business people I've seen, they have that idea in common, So I think it's really important. So with that, I want to actually shift, no pun intended, into because I ride bikes too, but not like you. But anyway, I want to shift into what you're doing. Let's talk about your business, and then talk to us about, first of all, what it is, and then how you're supporting girls. That's really important. Yeah.
Yes. So like my business is called Init Esports, and this business is fairly new. It's like from 2020, so it's a pandemic business. But what we are doing with it, we are using digital video game competition to bring more girls into motorsport. And we're doing it in a few different ways. So we have a particular pathway that we have created where we go in schools to bring a STEM education, motorsport related, and then the kids that they do the activity, then they apply what they learn into video games in sim racing. So the good part there is that we are really making this bridge. So we meet them where they are, because all the kids are online, right? But we make them do something that they can apply online. So now all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow. So this is what you use math for. This is what you use engineering for. So it's very, very rewarding. And with that, like the goal is to discover talent. And then not that everybody is going to become a race car driver. I wish, but that's not the reality. But we can open doors though, and give them an opportunity to enter the business world, maybe like as an engineer or as a mechanic or as even a broadcaster, but just kind of like by showing them all of the different doors the motorsport can offer to young women.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, and what kind of feedback have you gotten? What have you seen that you're excited about?
It's amazing. But one of the things beside the kids, because of course, the kids, you put them behind a video game, and this is a car. So you just have to get the steering wheel, and go.
You fall in love with it. Yeah.
Immediately. But the part that is actually super cool is that now I'm getting the principal of the school to fall in love with it. Because the difference of other esport is that the normal esport, which are titled that might be more, like famous for the general population, which can be like a Fortnite or a League of Legends. You probably have heard of those names.
Yeah.
They are very specific games, like, so somebody that is a newbie, like an adult or like a management on a school, they're not going to know what that is going on the screen, right?
Definitely
But you put them behind the steering wheel of a simulator, whoa, all of a sudden it's like, we have to have this in our school. So for me, it's super good because it's helping not only a male-dominated industry is motorsport, but also gaming, because in gaming as well, we have a lot of women, but we need to have more, to be able to get to that equality and equity that we all seek in every industries.
Yeah, I had a pretty big client in gaming for a few years, and it's a very interesting industry, because I feel that women don't traditionally, although you'd be surprised, I mean, you probably know, but when I was in that field, I was surprised at the stats of girls that actually play games. I mean, I'm talking about like multiplayer games and things that you're talking about, that's growing. So it seemed to be a little bit more, it was more male dominated. So I think opening this up, like you're doing in a fun way and exposing it at a younger age, I think you're going to be able to embrace more girls than traditionally, right? Because it was kind of like held off a little bit.
I think it's about creating a community,
Yeah.
that's the key factor here, because as you said, data shows that a third of the world population identify as a gamer. So 3.1 billion people play games.
Yeah.
Half of them are women. So there is a lot of women there. That's why we wanted to go that route. But what happens is that they are not, traditionally speaking, they are not very confident to compete against men necessarily, because a lot of competition are just online, and online sometimes, there is toxicity, right?
Yeah.
So what we are doing,
that's true.
what we are doing is to create a safe space. So, it is for women by women. So by having the girls be part of this, and again, put out there, yes, you can be an engineer. Yes, you can get into the STEM world. Yes, you can go in racing, but it's taught by the point of view of women. It makes a ton of a difference. So that's why we are very happy on how the program is evolving.
Yeah, no, it sounds wonderful. So is it across the US yet? Are you working in certain regions, and where can you?
US and the world, we are having requests from all over. We just completed a 9 days in Detroit, and that was incredibly powerful, because we hosted the program inside the Historical Society Museum.
Oh, how nice.
It was very cool, because in that particular museum, they also have a wing that is about motorsport and automotive, because Detroit, a lot of big corporation, are there for automotive. And being in there, and use that wing to be able to bring our simulator and do the program was just incredibly powerful. And now it's free for the kids to participate. So we really taken away every barrier of entry. So, in this particular case, we had the DNG Motors to be sponsoring the program.
Yeah.
So with a sponsor in, not only a sponsor gains the opportunity to connect with the demographic in a very authentic way, but also, they are now putting action into what a lot of companies try to do, which is marking DEI, marking girls, and try to help, communities in that way. So we are offering the way to do it. So it was incredibly fantastic, the event in Detroit. We also, one of the day, we were able to get an alternative high school to come. And that was incredibly good, because most of these girls, they probably will never had this kind of opportunity in their life, and be able to see them, do something in this way. It's just so heartwarming. It's priceless, really.
I know when we spoke, it's amazing, honestly. I mean, on a number of factors, especially the whole diversity and inclusion. We deal with a lot of businesses and in my world that are looking for ways to embrace diversity and inclusion in different ways, So I think on that front, it is something that I haven't heard of before. That's why I wanted you to talk about it. I think it's very unique, and it's a unique blend of sports, gaming, and diversity in one. So yes. I think, So I think it's really interesting, and I think it is definitely about the community that's the key. So I know that when we spoke before the podcast, you talked about some other women that are in sports, never mind motocross, that are supporting this. So talk about other women that are involved in this organization, how they support it, whether it's staff, board, volunteers. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. So for the Sim for STEM program in particular, I actually have a business partner with this. Her name is Nikki Daly, and she's a former Olympian. So, as a former motocross champion and Formula Olympia, again, we know, what it takes to be successful in sport. So we can relate a lot to young kids that they come through the program, because we understand the meaning of like sacrifice and never give up, like to do what you love and follow your passion. But also we pay a lot of attention on who we hire in the company, and we really give the opportunity to anyone and everybody. We do have, transgender people in our company. We do have, like LGBTQ plus people in our company. So, all of the different ethnicity, because it's important. It's something that a lot of companies fail to see it. But if you see the point of view of people that they might be different than you, you're just going to grow. Because otherwise you're just going to have one way of looking at things, right? So if you bring in a much different, like a group of people, then, and you listen, then you can see, hey, I can improve as a company in this area, in that area, in another area. But it's not possible unless you have people that they are that part of the world, to be in it, and be able to share with you what their experience is.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You have to be open and you learn from others. So, I mean, I'm in New York. So the epicenter of everyone.
Uh-huh.
It should be the new tagline. But anyway, so yeah, it really, really is. Okay, so can you talk a little bit about, like, kind of visualize the experience a little bit, if a company were interested in bringing this into their company, like what does that look like?
Yes, so I'm going to start from the end in a way, because we ended up having a first very impressive and successful program that is called Screen to Speed. So we screen to speed, like literally from the screen to speed. We created this tournament that was online first, where girls from all over the world needed to qualify. Then we got the top 15 in the world to come to this event in real life, where we had the simulators and they compete against each other. This event was in Las Vegas with the NASCAR event over there. This event was sponsored by Pennzoil, by Ford, by Yahoo, because it was the very first time that there was a gaming event, motorsport related, for women by women.
Yeah.
So incredibly successful. The winner of that event not only got to walk on the stage with the NASCAR champions, and be applauded by, 80,000 people there, but we brought her back to test on a real Porsche race car. He does not have a driving license, okay? And she never driven a real car before. In 17 laps, she was only 2 seconds slower than a professional female race car driver that was there as a mentor.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So, with that, we have proved, I don't know, maybe some of you that are listening, you have watched the movie Gran Turismo that was just out a few months ago.
Are you kidding me? I love that movie.
Yeah. So, we proved that for women, that there is a pathway to get from gaming, so lower the barrier of entries and bring them into the sport and be competitive, like coming from the sim racing world. But then, we sat down, it's like, how do we make this bigger? How do we get more girls? And that's when Sim for STEM was created. So Sim for STEM stays at the base because we are going into school with that. Yeah. So we are, the pathway looks like this: events in the schools, get the attention of kids in the school, get them to be part of the community, create a curriculum, which we are running right now in Ireland. Is a 5 weeks curriculum at this moment with 5 different schools. And we have a competition at the end of it. So each school is going to compete against each other to be able to find the best driver, female sim racing driver among schools, right? Then the next step is to compete in the Screen to Speed, which is the elite, championship around the world. And then with the winner of that gets a chance to be in a real car. So, it's a complete pathway to discover talent, and along the way, like I said before, it's not that everybody's going to be a successful driver, but, it's a team effort. Like in schools, they work as a team. They're going to be the person that is the engineer. So he's going to look at the game and how the car works to be able to set it up in a way that the driver can perform better. right?
Right.
So it's all about creating a team, and it's all women. So that's the very powerful thing. So if company wants to get involved, we have something that works. So if you wanted to be part of something that is for women, to highlight women, elevate women, we do have the solution.
Yeah. No, I think it's tremendous. I mean, it is all about team building, all the way from, it sounds like, the younger, like high schoolers, I guess, all the way up through. You take this obviously to grad schools. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
so much, there's so much here. I see a lot of opportunity for it. And I like the piece about bringing all different types of people as well. So
Yes.
maybe it's opening up career opportunities that people haven't even thought of, which is very cool. I think that's really interesting. So,
It's all about if you can see her, you can be her, so we really put
yeah,
a
yeah.
effort into that. And then now we're also going to go earlier too, because we have requested to start middle school, even elementary school. And
Yeah,
the
that's why I was
program,
wondering where it starts, right?
well, right now we focused on high school simply because we made some research, and high school is the time where young girls start thinking what they want to do when they
Of
grow up.
course. Yeah, yeah.
So like we wanted to slide in there and say, hey, you can be part of STEM, you can be part of motorsport. But in reality, kids can be even more influenced at a younger age. So schools are asking us if we can do the program at middle school, even at elementary level. And the beauty of it is that the program is completely adaptable. So, it's a turnkey program that we can do it from elementary all the way to college people. So it's very empowering.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to flip a couple questions to some standard questions that I ask all my guests. Uh, Very important question is your own role models, like
Yes.
whether they're in business, Olympians. Talk about role models that either you've look up to, embraced, read their stories, kind of taken things from them, and what has that been?
Well, maybe this answer will surprise you, but I think my role model are my mom and dad.
Mhm.
My mom and dad, they always there for me, always support me, work very hard for their own career. And, like just seeing what they did and how they approach life, I kind of like translate it into me. And then I just want to be like them, like as I grow up. So mostly it's them, like I'm
No, I
not
mean
so much.
that's a great answer. I
Yes.
mean, if you had hardworking parents that believed in you and believed in you all along the
Mhm.
way, I wouldn't think there's anybody. I think that's a wonderful family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Very
eh,
lucky.
yeah, I was going to say you are very lucky. So good for them. Next question. So when I asked you to be on the podcast, I said, like, I reached out to you. I was like, oh, I love what you're doing. I was so interested in what you were doing. And I said, would you like to be on my podcast? It's Warrior Women in Business. So what does that term mean to you when I said it's Warrior Women in Business?
I think I reflect into that quite a bit, because I feel the warrior in women in warrior women in business, it means like we don't give up. We don't give up. We keep going, like we are warrior, we are not scared to take it head on, like what is coming our way. And I feel that's why, like we connected right away when we talked, because we need to be that. We need to be that for ourselves, but also we need to be that for the younger demographic, because we need to be able to create role models, and warrior women in business are role models. So everyone that you had in your podcast, I pretty sure believe the same thing.
Yeah, and everyone that I've had on my podcast is different. I had one woman say how she liked the shield of our, so everything
Ah,
with us is like a shield. She said she
mhm.
liked the shield because it was like protection. Everybody's different and everybody's coming from a different angle, but I definitely think when we connected, I said, yeah, it's like we have to move, we have to drive forward. And, I love that what your story was and the consecutive successes that you have a goal and that's it. Who cares? That's it. And that's the way I think. It's like a pit bull. You just go and that's your goal and you get it and you come across a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
So that being said, I just wanted to talk about something that's not a part of what you're doing, but I think it's really important to talk about this month. Warrior Women in Business for a few years now has done quite a bit to support ending domestic violence. It's a big deal I don't know if it's a big deal in Europe. I don't know, but in the United States, it's a big deal. We've worked with the mayor's office to end gender and gender-based domestic violence. So October is the month. And when you talked about it's important for us to help others and help girls, I think that that is truly important, especially this month, that we look out to that it's unfortunately still a problem in life. So kind of look out and see how we can help people. We do a lot, like we did a silent auction. We raised money for 52 domestic violence shelters. And it's certainly something that we're involved with. Do you guys get involved with any like types of those causes? And if you do, what does that look like?
Yes, and every now and then we do get involved with causes. They tend to be women specific because, like the same old stories, like they have been, like mistreatment for women, like for a very long time. So as a woman leader, I care to be that voice, and bringing everyone with. So actually right now, like in a couple of weeks, we are doing an event with an influencer, a sim racing female influencer that we are trying to raise funds for breast cancer.
Oh,
Another
good.
thing that teach women, right? That
Yeah,
touch women. So yeah, anything that it can be done, we're definitely, looking into and try to help, because the most important thing is be there and listen. Like this is one of the things that I tell everybody is like, don't be shy, talk, say things, like
agreed.
don't keep it all inside, because there is going to be somebody out there that can help, and if you are respectful, like you're gonna
Of
get all the
course.
time, of people,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna get so much out of people, so just ask for help if you need it, because we are all on this big boat together, ladies, so we need to help each other.
Yeah, I think being a mentor in the listening piece and giving the time and caring is hugely important. And it sounds like you're actually tactically doing that at the high school level. So it's wonderful. And I'm thinking, wow, we should be doing a Warrior Women, event with you guys and bringing in some partners that we work with, because this is something that's just it's really important, not just to help the current female leaders and the current female entrepreneurs, but the ones that are coming up. So
Yes.
I think it's truly important. Okay, anything else before I talk about what's happening with Warrior Women in the next couple of weeks, what else would you like to share with our audience, if anything?
Yeah, like if everyone is interested in learning a little bit more, what we do have actually three websites specific. One is like a Sim for STEM, which is the program where we go in school with STEM and sim racing. The other one is Screen to Speed, where we do online competition and you can learn anything you need to learn to be able to compete, with female championship that we run. And then the company business, which is Init, and is initeesport.gg. That's the website. And in there, if you visit, you'll see two verticals, because my first love is motorcycling. So we do motorcycle events for a digital sim racing as well. Those, they tend to be mixed gender. They're not just female, because we still need a little bit more to be able to get, just women participating. But that's, of course, the end goal. So, like if you're interested in anything digital, like if that we do, initesport.gg shows you the two different verticals there.
Okay, wonderful. So in the show notes, and everybody that's listening now and in the future, in the show notes, we'll put links to everything, and any events that you may have coming up, you could share with us, and we'll put that out there. So I want to talk about what's coming up with Warrior Women. Stefy, you're amazing. I have been like, you're the first female champion in any male-dominated sport that, really, like, besides golf, that I thought, wow, she's a real badass. I know how hard it is. And I didn't ask you to share your story, I don't know if you wanted to, but how you got hurt. And I mean, it's like I grew up riding horses. I've been hurt about a billion times in my life. So, but it can be very scary as well. That's not I mean, golf, maybe you get hit by a ball, but no, motocross is not a joke. I don't know if you want to share that story before I talk a little bit about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I had a career-ending injury, like that stopped my competition, and like when you are on top of your game, at least my experience, but I know there are a lot of professional athletes relate, is that you don't think you're going to ever stop doing what you're doing.
True.
Like
Yes.
you want to continue to do it. You never see the end in sight, and that's what a champion is, right? Want to continue winning. In my case, I didn't make the decision to stop. A decision was made for me because I had an accident, and during the 2005 season, and we were preparing for 2006 season, where I destroyed both of my ankles so bad that immediately doctor wanted to amputate my legs.
What?
So it was, yes. So for me,
Wow.
like all of a sudden, from a second with the other, my entire life changed.
Yeah.
So now what? What you do? And, like I did go in a bad spot, like I got hit with the
Of
depression,
course. Yep.
like because,
Mhm.
it is normal, because everything that you knew until that point, it's gone. And now, like you identify yourself with that persona, and then that persona doesn't exist anymore. So you're very, very lost, right? But again,
Mhm.
thanks to my parents and, like my core group around me, I crawl out of the rabbit hole and I learn how to turn negative into positive. And then I started to go from one side of the fence to the other side of the fence. And therefore, like starting to use this as an opportunity to help more women to get involved with motorsport. For me, it happens in that way, meaning that before I was racing against everybody. So it was more like, because you have to have that in racing. It was like me, I'm the best, right?
Yeah, well,
And
you
then,
have to, right?
yeah. And then when you cannot do that anymore, you're like, hey, maybe now it's not just about me. It's just about
Right.
everybody, like,
Yep.
and try to help them. So I had that kind of like a pivot moment in my life. And I completely loved it because I was able to help many more women to get involved, and it was an accident that make that for me. And I
Yeah.
take the like I said, the negative turn into a positive. And I got hurt that I was 28 years old. And
Yeah.
I justify
Young.
to myself that, hey, I had an incredible successful career up until 28. Now I can start another successful career, and that's what I did.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, you know that I got in that surfing accident last year. I lost my vision. I'm
Yes.
still not 100%, and it's like it's crazy. And it's like takes that perseverance, but also I love what you said about you said, okay, you know what? All right, that's good. Now I'm going to start another chapter and I'm going to help other people. And
Yes.
really, that's it. And it gives you the spark, right? It
Mm-hmm.
gives you like hope. It gives you a reason, a
Purpose. Yeah.
purpose. It gives you a purpose, but it gives you a purpose in like a totally different way.
Yes,
And
totally.
but I think it's a much bigger and more important way, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. But
Um,
I guess one has to grow into it, like
yeah,
from the
yeah,
sports side, definitely I can say, when I was on top of my game, I mean, you have to believe you are the best thing that ever walk on earth. Otherwise,
yeah.
you cannot be successful. And
There's
it
no
comes
pro
out.
athlete champion that doesn't think that.
Right.
Am I
And
right?
sometimes, yeah, sometimes it comes out as being like very cocky and selfish and all of that, but it is part of the game. You have to be like that, like if you want to win, because you have pretty much the entire world to compete against. So you need to believe you're better than everybody else. But then it comes a time in your life when you grow out of that phase, and then, things start changing. And for me, it was due to the accident probably, but like I just turned things around, and like now it's time for me to give back. And everybody gets to it at a different stage in their life. I'm
Yeah.
happy how my life is it happened, like, and I continue to now be inspirational and help other women that want to get involved in the industry that I love so much, which is motorsport.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and there's a lot that we can take from that. It's a lot that we can take from that, especially about the giving back and looking forward to giving back in a different way. And you become evolved.
Yes,
I would say
indeed.
that's the key word there is evolved as a human being. So
Hmm.
I'm going to talk a little bit
Yes.
about coming up with Warrior Women. So this was amazing. I really encourage. I'm going to be sharing the hell out of this episode. It's so good. I'm on so many fronts. You have, like you said, 3 websites. You have a lot going on, but there's so much there. I mean, the companies can get involved, the universities, high
Hmm.
schoolers, female entrepreneurs. I definitely want to do an event with you guys.
Yes.
I mean, are you kidding me? And so there's just a lot here. And I think, Warrior Women in Business, our mission is really helping women, and embracing diversity. And so, this is how we do it. It's not by sitting around and talking about it, coming up with labels, and also BS is actually doing something.
Yep.
And I love that you're so action oriented. So,
Yes.
Okay, so a couple things with Warrior Women in Business. I'm wearing the Warrior Women in Business Beverly Hills shirt. We have a fun, cute, character-based fashion line that's all about like empowering women, but it's fun. So that's on our website, and we take a percentage of all sales there to give back. So this every month is something different, right? We did mental health awareness, suicide prevention, probably 3 or 4 times already since COVID.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, this is a very important topic, so we do a lot around that. But we also, so we have Warrior Women in Business, and then we also have Warrior Women in Music and the Arts. And next week, I am interviewing live in person the Senior Policy Advisor for the Department of New York City Arts and Culture, live at the Warrior Women headquarters, not in my room. And I am super excited for that because we are going to be talking about the creator economy. And she's like,
yes,
badass on how she has, oh my God, how she has been helping artists actually make money. We are just completely, I'm a musician, so how we can stop struggling and achieve. So we're going to talk about all the grants that when I spoke with her, I was like, why do all the artists not know about this? Not just musicians, the fine arts, dance, theater. So there's a lot going on. I'm very excited about that. We launched Warrior Women in Business Beverly Hills. That's what this shirt is all about in July. And we're going to be doing more there. So including something with the Women's National Hockey League.
Nice.
And you know what that's going to be on? We're doing that in January. And what we're doing is a panel on salary equality. Because, my background's in hockey. So I'm all over it. And I think it's so important that we take action on salary equality. So if you guys have questions, interest around what we talked about today, what we have coming up, getting involved with Stefy's organization, getting involved with the event that we're going to plan, please reach out to info@Warrior Women Business. Everything is going to be in the show notes. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye from episode 45, Warrior Women in Business podcast. Again, my name is Jasmine Sandler. Feel free to reach out at any time. And I really want to thank you, Stefy, for not just being on this podcast, but like honestly, everything that you're doing is what we need. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope everybody enjoyed our conversation today.
Okay. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.